Alright, I know I'd kind of been going through the various rarities for each clan tier list, and I thought I would go ahead and just finish that out, because I never got around to finishing it. So to resume, I believe we were on the Luna Uncommons, so that's what we're going to go with here. So just a quick refresher, I generally rate these based on how they do kind of between the P25 to the P75, shall we say. I don't care about super low rolls, and I don't care about super high rolls. I just want to know what I'm typically getting from these cards. If I see them in a draft or other, in a shop or something, how likely can I just sort of take them and have them do something for me? If I have to skip them a lot, they're not going to rank super high, or if they, even if I take them a lot, but they don't necessarily perform super well, they may not rank that high. They'll still rank decent if I'm able to take them a lot. I value that pretty highly. Mainly it just sucks when you see them and you're like, ugh, I don't want to take this card, right? Anyway though, first one up here is Eclipse Chamber. So I think this is a pretty good card. It's this one right here. It's a room, and all of your new moon effects are always active, which is pretty good for a lot of the good units, and even to some degree the champion. Arduin has a decent path that gets a bunch of damage from new moon, but mainly, even beyond that, just getting the 15 attack on resolve is quite nice. I mean, that's a pretty high amount of flat attack to just get every turn for free to the entire floor for one ember. I mean, that's just super high value. Granted, there aren't a whole lot of silent units, so, just really quick to review here, it's just these three. So Nightingale, Silent Sentinel, and Shade Guard, but Shade Guard's a very good unit. Silent Sentinel's a pretty decent unit as well. Nightingale, I've never been a huge fan of this, though I will say at least with the Lost Arsenal update, they did change it to get an extra multi-strike, so now it's at least just sort of a worse Animus of Will in those cases, but when you factor in the Eclipse Chamber, Nightingale becomes quite good. Nightingale's very good with the Eclipse Chamber, arguably even better than the other two, since it has all those multi-strikes. But the problem with Nightingale, I'm getting on a tangent here, but the problem with Nightingale is that without an Eclipse Chamber, he cannot be, sometimes he can just not really be that good. But the point is, two very takeable units, one questionably takeable unit. You often don't have to speculate on Eclipse Chamber, because I will say speculating on the Eclipse Chamber is rough, because by the time you see Eclipse Chamber, you're usually seeing it like the Ring 3 Merchant of Arms, or like a Ring 4 or Ring 5 card reward draft. By that time in the game, you mostly know what your units already are, so unless you can really justify taking it speculatively, it can be tough there. So it might not make S tier, just because I think there is a hit to the takeability rating there. When if you don't already have a silent unit, it can be pretty tough to just take this card, I would say, because if you're not getting the unit effect, there's not really any spells that benefit from New Moon that much. If I go and just say New Moon, and we take off the rarity. So like Gravity gets a descend on it, which I don't know. That could be, I guess, okay if you're using it on the enemy. But in a lot of cases, it might just hurt you, the fact that you now no longer can ascend on that floor. So if you use it on like a mid or a bottom floor and you actually want to move a unit up, you can't do that anymore. But that's not really a huge deal. I guess Dusk Mantle can be pretty good, but I just don't think Dusk Mantle is that good. And then Cover Night doesn't really count. That's just phasing to New Moon. So really nothing else really benefits from New Moon, right? Or I guess there's Moon Guard as well. Oh yeah, sorry, there's a fourth silent unit, which is a rare banner unit, which is the Moon Guard. But I don't know if I really count that, because rare banner units in this game are very hard to find, so you're not really going to find that synergy that much, that often. But yeah, as you can see, there's not really any reason to take Eclipse Chamber outside of the units, unless you really need your Dusk Mantle to pop off, or if you really need Gravity to always descend. So, that's probably why I just put it in the A tier, I'm going to say. Because I don't think it has super high takeability, but it's a very easy take if you have a silent unit. And performs extremely well. And you can center your whole game plan around it in most cases. So it's borderline S even there. Even with factoring in the takeability hit, I could actually argue S for it, but I'm going to leave it A for now. We'll just call it A+. And then we have Glittering Drought. I am not the hugest fan of this card. It used to cost 0 and it was fine there. I feel it wasn't even that good at 0, but I don't know. It's a consume. It costs 1. It just doesn't have much upside. It's like the heal is just sort of out of place, I feel. I don't know that you're... I mean, it is a good heal, I guess, for 1, but this is a clan that has such better heals, you know, so it's like, if you're taking it for the heal, I don't know, maybe that works, but there's certainly better options. Maybe you don't have the other options, but again, those other options are just, not only are they better at healing, but more importantly, they give armor, right? But Glittering Drought doesn't do that. If it gave armor as well, it would totally be fine. I would like that then, if it overhealed to armor. But it doesn't, so I don't know. Conduit 4 isn't really that impactful. I mean, it's like you're paying the same amount of Ember if you look at like a Stygian Guard, for example, for like a Mollusk Mage, and you're getting less than half the Conduit. Now, it is true that Mollusk Mage costs 1 pip and you have to keep it alive and stuff, but you can also dualize that, like double stacking a Glittering Drought doesn't even do that much, in my opinion. It's also just a very weak double stack. I wouldn't spend money on that when there's a lot of other better stuff most likely to double stack. So, and even within the Luna clan, I mean, you go to even like an Aurora Weaver is going to get much more Conduit than that, or, you know, the Moon Pixie gets way more Conduit than that. And again, they are units, but so it's not like a 1-to-1, but at the end of the day, still kind of value-wise, it is like, okay, for 1 Ember, and I can't replay it, it just isn't that good. So, I don't know, to me, it's like, I feel like D is probably too low, but honestly, C feels too high even for me. I'll put it in C, though, because at the end of the day, at least it does something, and what it does isn't completely useless. Like, it is okay, but, and, you know, I suppose in some world you could like consume, remove it, and hold it over, and then you could just keep stacking Conduit, and maybe that's enough if you have enough attuned cards. So there is like some upside. It's just very hard to actually realize it, and I don't know, I just don't think that it's that good. And then we have Hexscalation. Here's a card that, oh, they brought it back down to 1. Okay, nice. I forgot. This card's kind of gone through the ringer so many times, I always forget what state it's in at any given moment. So in the screenshot I took that I made the tier list with, it was at a 2 cost, but it's actually at a 1 cost, as we can see right here. Which in my opinion is where it should be. At 1 cost it feels quite nice. So I was actually going to rank it somewhat low at 2, but having played with it a ton at 1, I think it's back to where it should be. It's basically Hidden Passage, you know. The spell weakness component of it rarely is what I would use it for, but it's nice that it has it. But yeah, it's basically just used to overstack your own units, which maybe is a fatal design in the card, but that's what I would say it's for, at least for me. Maybe other people use it for the spell weakness component, but I certainly don't. It theoretically could be good for it. And sometimes I will, right? But like if I'm taking this card, I guess let's put it this way. If I take this card, I would never take it solely for the spell weakness. I would almost always be using it to overstack my own floor. But since it's really good at doing that, I'm going to put it in the A tier. I still don't think it's S because, I don't know, it's, if I wouldn't rank Hidden Passage S, I probably wouldn't rank this S. But Hidden Passage is borderline S still, I would say, but it's just not quite there. A feels a lot better. It's still, even at a 1 cost, it's not a card that I was always taking, right? It's just, if I have a reason to take it, it's an easy take, very easy take, which pretty much feels very similar to Eclipse Chamber, right? It's like, well, it'll be pretty obvious to me by the time I find this card, which Hexscalation will most likely be found in the 4th, 5th, and 7th rings, and I will already have my units by then, so it's like, if it's obvious to me that overstacking is good, then it's an easy pick, and it's going to do well. If I can't overstack with it, I don't know that I would ever take it. It's just like a way worse version of Siphon Soul, or Siphon Energy in the Stygian clan, and I don't even take that card that much. Yeah. And what was next? Oh yeah, Lunacy. It's a very fun card when it pops off. I just don't know how often it does. You know, I think at various points throughout my lifetime, or the lifetime of the beta, like, spamming Mooncycle was very powerful at certain points, and it felt like a very good card at that time. I don't know that the current state of the game is one where just spamming Mooncycles is that powerful. I mean, it's like, I can definitely do it with Aurora Weaver every now and then, but it runs into the problem of, like, you know, you have to find a non-priority draw banner unit to do it. But Astrologer still benefits from it, and obviously the Luna Cycle Staff does, but beyond that, I don't know. Not a whole lot that benefits from just spamming phases that I can think of off the top of my head. But certainly those cards can be good with it, so it definitely has upside. It has like S tier upside, but the floor is like similar to Glittering Drought. It's like, well, if the floor is that I'm just getting conduit out of it, and it can even mess with my moon phase at times. Sometimes it can be positive for the moon phasing, but a lot of times it can actually be detrimental. You know, if it's just getting taken for the conduit, it's not very good. It's just not enough conduit. So I don't know. I think it's definitely better than Drought because I think the ceiling is better and it's more fun to play. But I think low B is the best I can give Lunacy. Now Moonbeam, I'll be the first to admit that this card, I just don't take it much, and it's because historically it's been bad, because it didn't work how it works right now. I've been wanting to play with it more. It's just every time I see it on a run, it just doesn't make sense for me to take. But so the reason I didn't like it before is because it used to not spill the damage over to the next units. So it was basically just a way worse forever consumed. And you know, now that it spills over, maybe it has some reasons to exist. I still think you need like a hyper conduit build for it to really be that good, or a hyper energy build. But at least it seems like it has some upside. So I would take my rating of this with a grain of salt, but I still don't think it's very good. I think just 20 damage per Ember is a horrible baseline to work with, and I'm putting it in C, maybe just above Glittering Drought. You know, obviously if you have a lot of conduit, every single damage gets buffed by conduit, so it is attuned, and maybe even more than attuned in a certain sense, but depending on how much Ember you're going to pour into it. But yeah, I don't know, I just don't think it's that good. I really just don't think it's that good. And then we got Planetarium next, which is really good. That's another one I could have compared Glittering Drought to, right? 1 Ember 4 conduit, or 1 Ember 5 conduit times however many units I have on the floor. I mean, come on, which card's better here? Gee, I wonder. And again, not a 1-to-1, but realistically, come on, that is what we're working with here. Still hard for me to put in S. I don't know. I mean, I feel like it is a very good card, but it's basically, you know, it's like a how many units can I usually expect to have on a floor? I don't know, 3 or more. 3 to 5, but realistically more like 3 or 4 in most runs. Unless I'm overstacking, because I'm just not a guy that really takes pip upgrades. I'll admit it. I have to really got a reason to take a pip upgrade if I'm going to take it, but still, it's 1 Ember for 15 to 20 conduit on average for me, and that's a pretty good deal. That's an A tier card. It's not an S tier card, but it is A tier. And then Cosmic Bolt. It's a good card. It's just, I think the problem with all of the well, I guess there's only really 2 damage cards in the uncommon tier for Luna, which is Moonbeam and Cosmic Bolt. I just don't think that they are on the level of even the commons, right? You know, if I look at, for instance, Celestial Storm. Celestial Storm is just a better card than both of those. And even just the utility of something like Starstruck is better. I think they're similar in value to like Silver Strike, which I don't value that high anyway. I even would say Bloody Moon's typically better than those cards. But just because it's so low investment to add to a deck. But yeah, I don't know. And then Gravity, obviously, Starstruck and Gravity are harder to compare, but their utility is great, and they still also, it's like you need Conduit for either of these cards, any of these cards I named off to pop off. So other than Bloody Moon. Bloody Moon does not need Conduit to pop off. But yeah, I don't know. Obviously, you need some Conduit with Cosmic Bolt. I feel like it's more takeable, though, than Moonbeam, because I can target where it goes, and it's just easier for me to make it usable. It's just a little overcosted at 2, I feel, but it's pretty easy enough to get it to 1 cost, or even a 0 cost, and at that point, it's pretty good. I really don't mind just making it a 1 cost and slapping a plus 10 damage on it. At that point, it's a pretty good card, but and if we go to the rares, like, a Duality is just better than that, right? A Duality is pretty much the same card, except it's just objectively better, pretty much. Like, it costs less. It doesn't do as much base damage, but since it's a tune, that doesn't matter that much, especially if you are using Conduit. And then the big thing here is it can heal your own unit. So, and I like Duality quite a lot, but I do think Cosmic Bolt is a good card, though. It's just not, like, super amazing. So, I think B tier, it definitely is better than Lunacy, I feel. But they're similar. They're definitely not A tier, in my eyes. And then we got Mooncaller. And this goes back to the whole, like, well, this really just depends on if Mooncycle spamming is good. And even then, I think this unit severely suffers from not being a banner unit. They played around a little bit at various points in the game, by the way. Both Aurora Weaver and Mooncaller were banner units, and I really liked them both as banner units. They were very powerful. In fact, I would go so far as to say Aurora Weaver as a banner unit was basically overpowered. It was so easy to stack Conduit when it was a banner unit, just being able to have it out immediately. And Mooncaller felt a little worse as a banner unit, just because when you would start ring 1 with it, it would very often not do anything for you. But I still think as a banner unit, I was taking it so much more. It was just so much easier to to make the unit work. So I think in the current state of the game, and I won't say anything, but let's just say it may in the future change. I have no information there, but it may change. But in the current state of the game, you know, when you factor in that, like, Aurora Weaver is probably the premier unit that wants to Mooncycle a bunch, it's already not a banner unit, and then this is also already not a banner unit. It's pretty tough to really give Mooncaller that high of a of a rating for me. Obviously, it has good synergy with everything that we named off with Lunacy. So, like, the staff, astrologer, stuff like that. But I don't know. I just, I don't think it's that good. There's no way I could rank it higher than Lunacy, for example. I think it's probably C tier. It pains me to do that, but I find myself almost always skipping it these days. It's just too... It's a combo piece, and putting that combo together is too slow. But obviously, there are cavern events that will make it easier for me to take this card, and those are usually the situations where I will take it. And then here's a card, Cover of Night. It just continues to go down in my ratings. I used to like it a lot because it's basically, I just kind of saw it as a worse version of Engulfed in Smoke, but that was still pretty good. But I don't know. I think because corruption is the main killer in this game, and even to some degree, I think if I think some of the hardest fights, it's going to be like the Dominion Seraph, Spikes, Kale, these type of fights. Cover of Night doesn't do a damn thing for me, right? It's not to say it doesn't do anything though, right? It's definitely useful into like the Savagery Seraph, for example. In that fight, it's a godsend. So it's really just situational on what you're facing. But at the very least, you're going to face corruption in the Titan fight, and it's not going to do you any good there. It could help you against the sweeper wave in the Titan fight, so it's still not completely useless, but I do think it's severely limited in what it does. But at the end of the day, I guess just stealth I don't find as powerful in Monster Train 2 as it was in Monster Train 1. And on top of that, this card just doesn't give you that much stealth, and it's a consume. So it's like it has a lot going against it, and it phases you to New Moon, which I find is usually not a benefit in most cases. And this is just a skill thing, right? I'll admit this is a skill issue thing, but a lot of these cards that do a lot of things, like Moonrise is another one. It's like there's some of these cards where it's like they have other effects that I feel are the main theme of the card. To me, Cover of Night, the main theme of the card here is stealth, and even to a lesser degree the flat damage increase. The least eye-catching thing, or the least identity part of the card to me, is that it phases to New Moon. So I often forget that it does that, which really sucks when you accidentally phase and you did not mean to. So again, skill issue thing, I admit it, but it is something about the card that annoys me. Same thing with Moonrise, by the way. It's like, I don't know why these cards need to phase, but they do for whatever reason, and that can bite you more than it helps you, I think, unless you're really playing at the top of your game. But all that being said, it is, at the end of the day, a cheap one-cost AoE stealth and AoE minor attack boost, which those are good things to have. So it's definitely a takeable card. I just don't think the ceiling's super high with it, because it's like, well, you can you kind of have to consumer move it and then like hold it over to really make the card hit its ceiling, I would say. At that point, it's obviously very good, but I don't know. It's like, I think high B, pretty close to Cosmic Bolt, I think, in my take rate of it. I think they both can solve critical issues in the game, but they're not good at doing it. They're not ideal at doing it. They're okay at doing it, I guess. And then we have Moonrise. I don't know. It's just not worth my card draw to have this in a deck, I feel. Like, it's technically valuable, but again, it's a consume, which is like, eh. And it's a very minor Ember increase, and then again, the phase, it's like, I don't know. Like, I will say this, on both Moonrise and Cover of Night, the phase, being able to control the specific phase it goes to would again make more sense if they weren't consume cards, right? Because then it's like, okay, if I need to be in New Moon every turn, or I need to be in Full Moon every turn, then I can just hold them over, right? But for these cards, I have to remove the consume and then hold them over. So that's not something I can rely on, right? it's hard enough for me to plan when I'm taking cards to be like, oh, I'm going to get X upgrade, like one single upgrade, but then to say I need not only 2 upgrades, but I need to hit the one specific upgrade first and then the other one after that. That's a huge ask. That's not how I like to game plan. So when I take them, I only take them with what I'm getting out of the base card, and it's just not that much. So I don't know. It technically is okay, but I just don't know what it's doing, really, other than providing minor value, right? So I don't know. I actually think I might put this one in C. I can't remember the last time I actually took this card, but it's definitely not D. Like, it's not a bad, like, if I took it, I'm not like, oh, that was a mistake. Like, it's not gonna be burning a hole in your deck, but I feel like it's similar to like Sting. It's like, well, technically it seems like it won't be too bad, but even just it just makes your hand not that good, you know, when you draw it, in my opinion. It's diminishing the value of your hand, even if the card itself is technically low, like a decent value for low effort. I just don't think it helps your hand enough for me to say that it's a very good card. And then we got Aurora Weaver, which I kind of already touched on this card. It just runs into the problem of not being a banner unit, which again, maybe in a certain update coming up, I can't say anything for sure, I'm just speculating. Maybe that will be something that's less of a problem moving forward, but for now, at the point of making this video, with no consistent way to make a non-banner unit be deployable, it's not that good of a unit, because unlike a card like Moon Pixie, where I can put the unit down and it immediately gives its value, right? So Moon Pixie, it's not even that big of a deal that it's not a banner unit, and even then I don't like the fact that it's not a banner unit, but the fact that I can just put the unit down and it gives me all the value I ever need out of it immediately. It's a world of difference between the unit that comes down and is nothing the turn I put it down. So like I guess my thing is, like, when I bottom deck, I cannot game plan around Aurora Weaver, because if I bottom deck it, game over, right? That's just my problem with these non-banner units. They're so, and it's such a central unit, right? It's like if you take Aurora Weaver unit, you really got to build around it to make it work, right? You're building a deck that wants to use Conduit, and you're building a deck that needs to spam a bunch of moon cycles. And how can I build around an Aurora Weaver when I can just bottom deck it, right? Even if I dupe it a few times, I can still bottom deck them all technically. Even if I don't bottom deck it, if I'm in the middle of the deck it can still be devastating. So it's a type of card where it's like, well, if you don't care about win streaking and stuff, it's probably fine, because it's like, well, you just bottom deck it and whatever. But if you want to make sure you're not just losing a random run by bottom decking your main game plan, then Aurora Weaver is not going to be it. And of course there is the argument where you can say that, well, it just shouldn't be our main game plan, but I would retort with that and be like, well, then what is the point of this unit? How can you justify a pip space on a floor that matters, right? Because this obviously needs to go on a floor where it's protected, and one that cares about Conduit. So it's either one of your main or secondary floors, and you're dedicating pip to it. You're dedicating some sort of space in your deck, whether it's pip space or just the space of like Moon Cycle, right, to this card. So even if it isn't your main game plan, I have to question if it's really that valuable in that case, because you have to build around it for it to be valuable. So I don't know. It does feel like, but here's what I will say about it: the ceiling is S. It's such a good card when it pops off, and so fun. And I will say this: if it was when it was a banner unit, 100% I rank it as a S. That's how stark. And by the way, when it was a banner unit, nothing was different. It was the same stats, same card text. So it's like that shows a stark contrast in how I value deployable versus non-deployable, right? Like, I would literally consider this unit S in the deployable form, but C otherwise. And, nothing's been S yet here for Luna, but guess what? We will have one S tier card here, which is going to be the Moonlit Glaive. What a super powerful thing. Now, I will say this. There technically are runs where it's not takeable, and I run into them from time to time. There's just some random runs where you're not... You just don't have any conduit, or otherwise just aren't really leaning into Luna stuff, and that's fine. Like I said, I'm not interested in the super low roll type runs for these cards, but typically you're going to have some amount of conduit, and this card is going to be it's going to be at least decent to very just insanely powerful. If you have a bunch of conduit, this thing just reaches over 100 damage easy, sometimes 200 to 300 damage or more, and it will just do so much for you. So, and 2 cost, it's somewhat expensive. It's not that expensive. They could probably make it a 3, and it's still pretty good. Actually, it used to be a 1 even, if you could believe that. But yeah, I think even at 2 costs, it's still S tier card in my opinion. I won't say it's like S plus. Maybe I'll even say it's S minus, just because, like I said, there are enough runs where it's not takeable, but I think for sure it's so powerful, just almost every time you take it. And are there any adjustments I want to make here? I'll be honest, I am debating putting the Eclipse chamber to S. I don't know. I think it could make sense. Obviously, there's more runs where I'll have conduit than runs when I'll have silent units. But is it enough for me to say it's a tier difference? Because here's my problem I'm having when I look at this. I'm like, well, the Eclipse chamber is, I think, definitely a step above Planetarium and Hexscalation, just generally speaking. Because of the upside. It's just so powerful with the upside. And I don't think it's like significantly a tier below Moonlit Glaive, so shouldn't it just be S? I mean, I've carried so many runs with Eclipse Chamber. I think it does actually deserve S. So we'll keep that in S. I think these all make sense. I could maybe drop Lunacy, because Lunacy is tied to these cards pretty much, but it just feels a little better because it's a spell, and it's technically still has some runs where I'll use it, because I can do more with a spell than I can with these non-banner units. Yeah, I think this makes sense. I may even do this. I don't know. D seems a bit harsh, but Glittering Drought seems... Yeah, I think C is fine. It's pretty close to D, but we can keep it in C. Yeah, I think this makes sense. Well, let me know what you think. You don't have to agree, obviously. Let me know if you got any big shifts in your own tier list on these cards. And then hopefully we'll be able to do a few others if I can find some time. But yeah, as always, thanks for watching, and until next time, peace.